Okay, it's going to be time to talk a little bit about next week. Um, we're reaching the point in time where we're going to start needing calculators to do our work. And you should have a calculator at home that has the square root button and the pi button. So as we work in next week, you'll need a calculator on the multiple choice test that you're going to take. You'll need a calculator all the time, desperately. So we'll work on prepping for that next week. And now we're slowly starting to head towards problems where we need a calculator. So let me clarify just a little bit on the two cases I did before. When I talked to you before, many lectures ago, I told you that, excuse me, I told you that if someone asks you what the volume is of a cylinder, just to make the argument easy, and you draw a little cylinder and then they give you the data and let them say that the radius is 3.25 and the height is 4.5, just to make the argument, and they want it in terms of pi, and they ask this question on the test that you'll take. What are you going to do? When I plug in the numbers, it's pretty obvious to anybody with any common sense that this is required to do for a with a calculator. So there you see the numbers. I mean, this is ridiculous. There's no point in trying to do this without a calculator. For no reason, you'll be twisted like a pretzel in circles trying to figure out what the square of 325 is, and then to multiply that by 4.5, and then just to put it in terms of pi. So it's just arbitrary to say the radius is 3.25, or say that the height is 4.5, but that's what they do. And even in terms of pi. So with that in mind, we'll practice problems like that starting on Monday or Tuesday, where they do that, and we'll try to get a little used to the calculator. I'll show you mine. I have one of the old ones that the school has, and it has a pi button, and it has the square root, and it divides and subtracts and all that. So that's really all you'll need to do the work I'm going to give you. So the other brand of math that I said we were going to do that's not in terms of pi is if they give you a problem and say they want you to find the volume of a cylinder. We draw the cylinder and they say find the volume, and then they say find V, and then they say not in terms of pi, they say to the nearest, typically, and we'll talk in detail about this on Monday, to the nearest hundredth, okay? Then we'll talk again about rounding, how to use the calculator, what they mean by doing this. And so we would, if they gave you the radius is 3 and the height is 6, well, everything would seem normal the way we've been doing in terms of pi. But when you do the math, you get pi 3 squared times 6. But even if you wanted to do it without a calculator, the work is, you got your work handed out for you, because 3.14 times 54 is work that we're really not interested in. And to round it to 100, it doesn't make any sense. So clearly, the Common Core intends you to do this with a calculator. And we'll be turning our attention to these kind of problems as the week goes on. Now I'm going to, and I really do want to talk more about irrational numbers and rounding and how we do these sort of things. But I'd rather leave you a problem that I won't solve at all, and that I'll be following up on Monday. And here's the problem. I have a little cylinder which I call a bucket, and maybe I have this huge jacuzzi, okay? And I'm working in units now, but we will change from going to units to centimeters and meters and feet and yards. We will do that because the Common Core does that. And they say that, well, r equals 3 and h equals 9, and the radius on this guy here is r equals 9, and we're talking units now, okay? The question would be, how many cans does it take to fill up this jacuzzi, this half sphere? Say it's water, and I have this big, huge source of water over here. I keep dipping in the water. I dip in and I dip out, and I put it into my jacuzzi. And the question would be, how many, and we'll call these cans, how many cans, whoops, how many cans does it take to fill up the jacuzzi? Okay, so there you go. There's a problem to think about some of the things we've done, and they love these kind of problems. In fact, they fell deeply in love with them, and they become more complicated, and we can turn these into calculator problems as well. So I leave you with that thought, and I will definitely be doing this particular problem on Monday and assigning you more. And like I said, we're going to gradually go into calculator business. So make sure for next week that you have a calculator with a pi button, a square root button, and a squaring button would be nice as well. Okay? And obviously all calculators divide and add, subtract, all that stuff. So that's where I'm leaving you here. If you want, some kids are sending me emails with answers. You can answer this question if you get it. The answer is very simple, but later we'll make it a little more complicated. All right? Okay, so I'll leave this. Come back to it on Monday, and I wish you all a nice weekend. I gave you work. I plan to do the work on Monday, follow up these problems and the other problems I gave you on the video. Make sure you're doing your work, because it's your education. It's so important. Your education. Okay? Bye.